what it was saying was that the heathens or the other nations, they was upset with God because God gave the Israelites holy days. And because he didn't give it to them, they made their own and called it holidays. That's why you'll see a lot of some of their customs is around our customs, like Passover. But God didn't give them Passover, so they made up Easter. You know, Feast of Dedication. They made up Christmas. All these different things. It's a lot of, when it comes to the times and the laws and different traditions and stuff like that, a lot of our people get confused. Only reason why is because the ways of the world. That's just what they used to. But when you start to read the scriptures and you understand God's agenda is totally different from the world's. His traditions, his laws, and everything. All right, so we're going to get into it. Let's open up with Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. Let's start there. Romans chapter 15 and verse 4.
The book of Romans, chapter 15, verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning.
It says the things that was written aforetime was written for our learning. So what was written aforetime? This Bible. This is what's for our learning. If it wasn't for the Bible, we wouldn't know what sin is. We wouldn't know what wickedness is. We wouldn't know what knowledge, wisdom, what we should not be doing. We wouldn't know what none of that is if it wasn't for the Bible. So the Bible is written for us to learn from. Read on.
That we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
And not just the learning part of it. It helps us to deal with problems that we're going through. It helps us to sustain our lives and live the best possible life that we can due to the scriptures. It gives us comfort when we're down. That's what the Bible is for. Give me Isaiah 34 and 16. It said it gives us comfort and hope, right? Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 16.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 34 and verse 16. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read.
So the Bible is letting us know we must seek out of the book of the Lord and read. Once we start reading, once we start keeping the commandments, we start to understand that a lot of things that goes on in this world is evil. A lot of stuff that's been set up is paganism. And we don't understand those things until we start to read, and then we start to apply. Then our understanding start to open up, and we start to look around and see, like, man, this whole world life in wickedness. Everything around us is wicked. You know what I'm saying? But once we read, we start to get the understanding. Read on.
No one of these shall fail.
It says not one of these shall fail. So that's how we know the Bible is a true book. It says not one of these prophecies shall fail. If God says this is going to happen, then best believe it's going to happen. Another way we know about the Bible is true, you can actually look up the ancient artifacts. The Bible has been proven historically true. So the Bible is a true book. Why? Because none of the prophecies shall fail. So we know it's a true book because of the prophecies. God said the so-called blacks and Hispanics were going to slavery for breaking his commandments. Did that happen? You best believe it did. Read on.
None shall want her mate.
And we can't compare none of these books with the Bible. That's what we need to seek out of the book of the Lord. Read on.
For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them.
Okay, so the Bible is God's spirit. Let's drop that. Give me 1 John 5 and 19. 1 John 5 and 19. So once we start to seek out of the book of the Lord, we start to get an understanding. We start to understand what God commands of us, right? 1 John 5 and 19.
The book of 1 John, chapter 5 and verse 19. And we know that we are of God, and the whole world lieth in wickedness.
You see that? So once we start to understand and keeping the commandments, now we know we of God. Why? Because we keeping the commandments. And then we start to see all these things, these laws and stuff being passed is contrary to what the Bible is saying. All these traditions and customs is contrary to what God is saying, right? Read on.
And we know that the Son of God is come, and hath given us an understanding, that we may know him that is true.
And that's how we know when we follow Christ. Why? Because Christ came and he was that example for us. We know a tradition of the world is Easter. We know Christ didn't keep Easter, right? We know that. Let's get the book of Mark chapter 12 and verse 24. Mark chapter 12 and verse 24. So once we start to read and understand the scriptures, we start to see all these things that's out of place, right?
The book of Mark, chapter 12 and verse 24.
Uh-huh.
And Jesus answering said unto them, do ye not therefore err, because ye know not the scriptures?
You see that? So this is Christ talking to the Pharisees. He's saying, do you know that you err because you don't know the scriptures? So let's bring it to our people today. Our people err or mean they not keeping the commandments. They don't understand what they should and shouldn't be doing. Why? Is because they don't understand the scriptures. They go to the Christian church. The pastor's not teaching them. Hell, the pastor is saying, hey, Easter Sunday, you know what I'm saying? So they leading our people to err. Why? Because they don't know the scriptures, you know?
Neither the power of God.
And we don't even know the power of God. We don't know the judgment of God. Our people that don't have the understanding of the scriptures, they don't know nothing that God actually has ordained. Why? Because they haven't been taught. They haven't seeked and start applying. So they don't know these things. So when it comes to these wicked holidays, whether it's Easter, Christmas, 4th of July, whatever it may be, our people gets involved in these things. Why? Because they don't understand. Let's get Colossians 2 and 8. Colossians 2 and 8. So reason for this class is because our people in the world or don't have the understanding of God, they don't realize that the real new year is upon us. The real new year is coming up later on in the week. But they celebrated the fake new year a couple months ago. But they don't realize that the new year is actually in the spring. And we're going to get into that. That's why it's Abib versus January. All right, read what you got.
The book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 8.
Uh-huh.
Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit.
The Bible's saying, watch out. Beware. Don't let nobody spoil you with vain philosophy and vain deceit. Things that don't have nothing to do with God. Things that's nothing but lies, made up, fairy tales. Beware of those things. Read.
After the tradition of men.
It said, after the tradition of man. 4th of July, tradition of man. Easter, tradition of man. January 1st, New Year's, tradition of man. All these things are traditions of man. Read on.
After the rudiments of the world.
Uh-huh.
And not after Christ.
It says after the rudiments of the world. We just read the whole world life in wickedness. So our people follow the rudiments of the world and not Christ. Christ didn't keep Easter. Christ didn't celebrate Christmas, 4th of July, none of that stuff. That's the rudiments of the world. Let me get that first article, and let's see where this came from. The first article, the Encyclopedia Britannica. Where did this come from?
Why does the new year begin on January 1st? The Roman Republican calendar and the Julian calendar both recognized January 1st as the beginning of the new year. The day was chosen partly in honor of Janus, the Roman god of beginnings and the month's namesake. Though medieval Christians attempted to replace January 1st with more religiously significant dates, Pope Gregory XIII created a revised calendar that officially established January 1st as New Year's Day in 1582. Mm-hmm. The date was gradually adopted in Europe and beyond. It subsequently spread to the countries without dominant Christian traditions.
All right, so we can drop that. So what it came about is off of the Julian calendar. Now it was different calendars in the time frame, but the Julian calendar is where it started with, and it said it honors Janus. And I'm pretty sure some of us may know that. Let me get that on Wikipedia. And let's get a look at what Janus is talking about. What Janus is talking about. It's in honor of Janus, which is a Roman god. Is that what I want? Is it like a picture? Okay, that's the two-head picture. Read that, Moses.
Theology and functions. While the fundamental nature of Janus is debated in most modern.
Hold on. Yeah, I don't think that's it. Go all the way to the top. Is there something at the top? You just give a little brief summary of them.
Okay.
Yeah, read that.
All right. In ancient Roman religion and myth, Janus is the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, times, duality, doorways, passages, frames, and endings. He is usually depicted having two faces. The month of January is named for endings. Well, excuse me. The month of January is named for Janus. According to ancient Roman farmers' almanacs, Juno was mistaken as the tutelary deity of the month of January, but Juno is the tutelary deity of the month of June.
Okay, so when they first started, it was a little confusion going on. They had Juno mixed up as January. Why? Because it was more of a male type of name, and Janus of the female name. Juno is actually the female version of it. But either way, what it's saying is January is represented of the Roman god Janus, right? But why do our people err? It's because we don't know that the scripture says we should have no other gods before me. We don't know that January represents a Roman god. All right, we can drop that. Let's get the other article with the papal bull. Let's get that. Because we got to understand where these things come from. It's just not no coincidence it shows up, right? The Wikipedia. Yep, read that, Moses.
Enter gravis, I don't know how to say that word.
Gravismus.
Gravismus? All right.
Something like that, yeah.
Among the most serious was a papal bull issued by Pope Gregory the 13th.
So Pope Gregory the 13th, he made a papal bull, meaning when they had the Julian calendar, he tried to revise it. Well, he did revise it. Read on.
On the 24th of February in 1582.
Mm-hmm.
The document written in Latin reformed the Julian calendar. The reform came to be regarded as a new calendar in its own right and came to be called the Gregorian calendar, which is used in most countries today.
So he reformed it from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. So that's what America is under now. It's under the Gregorian calendar under Pope Gregory the 13th, right? So we're going to drop down some. Let me see. Drop down a little bit. There was something I seen in there. Yeah, read that. The intention expressed.
Description. The intention expressed by the text of the bull was to restore the calendar so that seasonal events critical for the calculation of Easter dates would be back in their proper places.
It says, so he wanted to change it so it could be back in its proper places. Why? Because they was bouncing around with their wicked Easter, right? Read.
And would be prevented from being moved again.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of reform, as such as not otherwise mentioned, the bull identifies three necessary things for the correct determination of Easter dates. Correct placement of the northern vernal equinox.
So that's dealing with some of the northern hemisphere in the springtime. Read.
Correct identification of the 14th of the month of the moon, effectively full moon.
I don't know if y'all caught that. Read that again.
Identification of the 14th day of the moon.
Of the moon, effectively what?
Effectively full moon.
On the low, they telling us that the full moon is the new moon, but that's the low. But what it's saying is Easter was kept on the 14th day of the moon at one point. Ain't that strange? Here, Leviticus 23:5 real quick. Leviticus 23:5. Because God ordained something on the 14th day of the month.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at even.
The 14th day of the first month at evening.
is the Lord's Passover.
Is the Lord's Passover. So the 14th day at evening of the first month is the Lord's Passover. Now I had a book, I couldn't find it, but what it was saying was that the heathens or the other nations, they was upset with God because God gave the Israelites holy days. And because he didn't give it to them, they made their own and called it holidays. That's why you'll see a lot of some of their customs is around our customs, like Passover. But God didn't give them Passover, so they made up Easter, Feast of Dedication. They made up Christmas, all these different things. So Easter used to be kept in the 14th day of the moon, just like it was with Passover. But the hell with Easter. Right, God didn't ordain Easter. Right. All right, you can drop that. I just want to pull that out. And then it said after the moon, especially the full moon, so meaning the month. So they understood that the full moon was the actual beginning of the new month. All right, so let's get Wisdom of Solomon 14. Wisdom of Solomon 14 and start at verse 8. 14 and 8. So he made a papal bull to introduce the Gregorian calendar that we are under in America today. All right, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 8.
The book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, verse 8. But that which is made with hands is cursed, as well it as he that made it. That made it. He because he made it, and it because being corruptible, it was called God.
Jump to 12. We'll get to the point. Jump to 12.
Verse 12. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication.
It said the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication. The devising of idols going into idol worshiping, serving these other gods, as in Janus, worshiping New Year's in January when there's really not even a New Year's. Read on.
And the invention of them, the corruption of life.
It says the corruption of life. Jump down to verse 16, I'm sorry.
Verse 16. Thus in process of time, an ungodly custom grown strong was kept as a law.
It said an ungodly custom. America has, every custom of America is ungodly. Anything you can think of, it got some type of paganism or some type of wickedness to it. You got your January 1st, representing the Janus god. Then what are people doing on January 1st? They get drunk. There's fornication, all type of wickedness, right? Read on.
And graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings.
It said engraven images was worshipped by the commandments of king. One of them graven images was Janus. That wasn't put there by coincidence, right? Read on.
Whom men could not honor in presence, but they dwelt far off.
And that's why it became strong. Now it's like they don't. When our people celebrate January 1st or the fake New Year's, they don't know that they worshiping another God. Read that again, Moses.
Whom men could not honor in presence.
See, they couldn't honor in presence. So they put these things out here and renamed a month. So when you worship it, you won't even know you worshiping it. We'll say, hey, y'all know y'all worshiping Janus? Our people like, I don't know what you're talking about. Read on.
Because they dwelt far off. They took the counterfeit of his visage from far and made an express image of a king whom they honored. To the end by this, their forwardness, as they might flatter him that was absent, as if he were present.
All right, so that's just going into idol worshiping. Give me Daniel chapter 7. Now, where did all this come about? As we read the papal bulls. We read about January 1st, all that, how it came about, right? Daniel chapter 7 and verse 25.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7, verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws.
It said, and think to change times and laws. It says he. Who is that he? Pathetically, it's talking about the Roman emperor, right? The so-called white man. It says, and he. For you to be able to change times and laws, you got to have power. You gotta have rulership to be able to do that. Read on.
And they shall be given into his hand until a time,
And this is where he wore us out in slavery, changed our names, taught us his customs, his religions, all these different things. That's how he wore us out, right? Drop that. Give me Job chapter 9 and verse 24. Job chapter 9 and verse 24. It says, and he shall think, he thinks he changed times and laws, because everything is on a cycle. You know, he got his what? It just happened a couple of days ago, his daylight savings time. He changed that, moved the clock back, move it forward, you know, but the sun rotate the same as always, how God designed it. But he think to change times and laws. Read.
The book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?
So the Bible says the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. The hands of the wicked. But our people get confused when they hear about the wicked. Who could it be? It says, if not him, then who could it be? The wicked is the so-called white man. Why is he wicked? Because he makes laws that's contrary to God. He makes customs and all these different things that goes against God. Malachi 1 and 4. You don't believe me? Well, the Bible is going to say who the wicked is, right? Malachi chapter 1 and verse 4.
The book of Malachi, chapter 1, verse 4. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness.
You see that? So God calls Edom, Esau, the border of wickedness. When you read Genesis, Esau was the red man that came out, right? That's your so-called rednecks today, which is the so-called white man, right? God says they are the border of wickedness. They the ones have the power to change times and laws. We never heard of the Arab man changing times and laws that alters the whole world, put a calendar in place that changed the image of Christ. No, it's the so-called white man, right? We're going to drop that. So let's go ahead and get into Exodus 12. Exodus 12. So we seen how January came about. Pope Gregory, they changed it on the Gregorian calendar or whatever it may be, and he instituted as January 1st. But let's get into it. Let's see what God says. The Bible says, let God be true and every man a liar, right? Let's see. Exodus 12.
The book
verse
of
1.
Verse 1?
Yep, verse
Yes,
1.
The book of Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take them to every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And
Okay, so what it just said is this month should be the beginning of months. So God is establishing something here. Drop that. Give me Sirach 43. He is establishing something to the children of Israel, as we just read, right? It didn't say everybody, it said the children of Israel. Sirach 43 and verse 6 through 8.
The book of Sirach, or Ecclesiastes, chapter 43 and verse 6.
Yep.
He made the moon also to serve in her season.
You see that? It say he made the moon also to serve in her seasons. Read.
For a declaration of times and a sign of the world. For the moon is the sign of feasts, a light that decreaseth in her perfection. The month is called after her name.
You see that? So God made the moon so to represent the month, or the month is called after the moon, right? So in Exodus 12, it said this should be the beginning of the year, right? So we're gonna drop that. Is that it on that?
No, sir.
Finish that.
Increasing wonderfully in her changing, being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven.
So it's letting us know the moon is supposed to shine when it comes time for the new month. You will be able to see it. It's going to shine, right? Deuteronomy 16 and 1. So what is that month? What is that month that the Lord was talking about in Exodus 12? What is that month that's the beginning of the year? right? Is that month called January? Let's see. Let's see what God says.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 1. Observe the month of Abib.
Observe what?
Observe the month of Abib.
So God says, observe the month of Abib. Read.
And keep the Passover.
And keep the Passover. Why? Because when the month of Abib comes, meaning that new moon, which is the full moon, when that comes, that's the beginning of the year. And as we read in Leviticus 23, the 14th day at evening would be the Lord's Passover. That's what God ordained us to keep, Passover, not Easter. Is it more on that?
And keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt by night.
So understand, for history's sake, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, for those that don't know, around this time coming up is the month of Abib. This is the time the Most High God brought your forefathers out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, as the scripture says. It's around this time. So at the end of the week, the month of Abib is going to roll in, which means what? It's the new year according to God. Understand that. All right. Let me get that Zondervan. Let me get that Zondervan on the month of Abib. Let's get that. The month of Abib. The month of Abib. When does it start? We know God says it's the beginning of months or the beginning of years, right? The beginning of the year. Abib, read that.
Abib, an ear of corn, the pre-exilic name for the first month of the year.
So Abib means an ear of corn and also wheat harvest as well, read.
After the exile, the name was changed to...
It said after the exile, the name was changed. The exile, that's going into when we was going into the Assyrian captivity. The name was what?
The name was changed to Nisan.
It said the name was changed to Nisan, right in the Assyrian captivity. That's why when you read in the book of Esther, when you read in Esther, it talks about the first month of the year was Nisan. Why? Because it was already exiled. It was changed when it got time to the Persian captivity, because it was changed in the Assyrian captivity. Read on.
It fell about the time of our March and early April.
It said it fell about the time of March and early April. If you take a look around outside, you start to see stuff starting to renew. You know, it ain't full yet, but it's starting to renew. It's the sun starting to sprout out a little bit. Things are starting to renew in the earth. Why? That's the new year. That's the new year, the month of Abib. All right, let me get the calendar. Let's get the calendar. Yeah, let's get the calendar. That's also in the Zondervan. Let's get that too. Let's get that as well. Yep, so the month of Abib is the beginning of the year. We are in the month of March. This Friday at sundown is the new year. Understand that. All right. Calendar. Let's read that.
Calendar. During the Bible period, time was reckoned solely as astronomical observations. Days, months, and years were determined by the sun and moon.
We just read that in Sirach.
Days of the week were not named by the Jews.
You see that? Days of the week was not named by the Jews. We didn't have no days of the week. We just had the 14th day of the month, the 16th day of the second month, the such and such. That's what we had. We had the days of the month, right? So we didn't have these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We didn't have none of that. We're gonna see where that came from though. Read.
But were designated by the original numbers.
By the original numbers. Read.
The Jewish day began in the evening.
It said the Jewish day began in the evening. In the evening. From sundown to sundown. Not sunrise to sunrise or not at midnight. That was another time that the so-called white man changed. He said the new day started at 12:01. God said it started at evening when the sun go down. Read on.
The Jewish day began in the evening with the appearance of the first stars.
Uh-huh.
Days were subdivided into hours and watches.
Right. It was subdivided into hours and watches. All right. Now go down, son. We don't need to read that part. Go down to the other highlighted. Hold on. Yeah, you can read that. The green. The Hebrew month. Yep.
Okay. The Hebrew month began with the new moon.
A Hebrew month began with the new moon. Why? Because the moon represented the month. Read.
Before the exile, months were designated by numbers.
Uh-huh.
After the exile, names adopted by the Babylonians were used.
You see that? Because we always had 12 months in a year. We always had that in a year, right? Read on.
Synchronized Jewish sacred calendar, Nisan, March.
Nisan fell in March and April. Remember, that's the exile name. It's really Abib. Read.
March, April. Iyar.
Yep.
Iyar, April, May. Sivan, May, June. Tammuz, June, July. Ab, July, August. Elul, August, September. Tishri, September, October. Heshvan, October, November. Kislev, November, December. Tebeth, December, January. Shabbat, January, February. Adar, February, March. The Jewish.
Okay, so these are the Babylonian names that was changed after the exile. Now it says Adar. You can even read that when you go to Esther, and it mentioned keeping Purim and Adar. We just kept Purim a few weeks ago. And Adar, which is the 12th month. So this month that we in now is the 12th month, finna go into the first month, right? Okay, we can drop that. But that's how the calendar was set. All right, give me Isaiah 29. Give me Isaiah 29, start at verse 15. Because now we can see how all these things was changed. How the so-called the neighborhood white man, he changed a lot of different things, right? Starting with the months and so on and so forth. Isaiah 29 and 15.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 29, verse 15.
Uh-huh.
Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord.
Uh-huh.
And their works are in the dark. And they say, who seeth us?
So when they do these things, they're like, who seeth us? You know, who gonna, like in Obadiah, the pride of them, who gonna stop us? Right? Read.
And who knoweth us?
Uh-huh. So who know we doing this? Who know that we made up January and we named it after the god Janus? Who know that? Read.
Surely your turning of things upside down
It says, surely of turning things upside down. The so-called white man has turned things upside down. Everything he has and put out there, it goes against God. But that's why the prophets are back, and we're going to turn things right side up. Right. Best believe it. Read on.
Shall be esteemed as the potter's clay.
Okay, so that's all I want on that. It's just to show he turned things upside down. From the months, the year, all these different things. We're going to get more into that. Let me get Psalms 82. Psalms 82 and verse 4. So it says, he turned things upside down, right? Everything he touches, he corrupts it. like the Terminator or the evil T-1000 or something like that. Everything he touches, he corrupts it, right? Read what you got.
The book of Psalm. Chapter 82, verse 4.
Uh-huh.
Deliver the poor and needy.
It said, deliver the poor and needy. We are the poor and the needy, right? Read.
Rid them out of the hand of the wicked.
Uh-huh. So God is going to rend us out of the hand of the wicked. We keep his commandments. He's going to save us from all these things that's going on in the world, right? Read.
They know not, neither will they understand.
And then you have our people that don't know. And if they do, we out there teaching them, they won't understand. Read.
They walk on in darkness.
And that's what our people do. Our people don't know they celebrating January, Janus and Ishtar when they celebrate Easter and all that stuff. Our people don't know that, right? Read.
All the foundations of the earth.
It says, all the foundations of the earth
are out of course.
Are out of course. Why? Because the world was given into the hands of the wicked. Right. That's why it's out of course. And another reason why it's out of course is because you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you are the Israelites. You fell into the midst of sin. So God allowed Mr. White Man to rule the kingdom, to rule this earth, which is his kingdom. But the saints gonna take it back. Understand that. So it's out of course is because we not ruling. We didn't set the foundation of righteousness, right? Read that part again.
They know not. Oh, wait, hold on.
The out of course part.
Yes, sir. All the foundations of the earth are out of course.
So all the foundations are out of course. Why? Because the wicked is ruling. Ephraim, let me get that article. Article number 4. About the months. So we know he changed times, laws, customs. What else did he change? Let's get into the months. He changed even the months. Right? Read that, Moses.
The origins of each month's name.
Let's go down. You can scroll down. Keep going down. We get to the point. Start right there. Yep.
Can you zoom in just a little bit?
Yeah, let's start right there.
All right. Calendar. All right. Roman calendar. 738 BC, King Romulus.
Okay, so under King Romulus.
10-month calendar with 355 days.
So under King Romulus, they had a 10-month calendar that had 355 days.
8-day week.
They had 8-day weeks, right? So this was under King Romulus. Let's go down. Now this is where the Julian calendar got instituted, right? Right here.
Julian calendar, 46 BC. Julius Caesar. 12-month calendar with 365 days.
12-month calendar with 365 days. Remember, they took it from the Babylonians, who only had the 10-day calendar. So Julius Caesar made the Julian calendar, and he made it 12 days. But let's see, what did he get? Read.
Added the winter months, January and February, to better match the lunar cycle.
He said he added the January and February to that 10-month to match the lunar cycle. So what happened out of that 10-month calendar, because you had March on down, right? Because with the new year going into March, April, you had March on down from 1 through 10, all the way through December. He added January and February and put it at the beginning for the winter months. And he made it the first and second month. So now when they instituted the Gregorian calendar, that's why the months don't add up. That's why October is the 10th month. But October, or Oc, means 8. It means 8. So when the Bible says the earth is out of course, it's out of course because of the wicked. The wicked is ruling this earth. Nothing adds up. Easter don't make sense. These months don't make sense. Hell, we don't even really know if it's 2025. Right. Because of this man right here. The earth is out of course. November is the 11th month, but nombre means 9. December is the 12th month, but decimal, decade, means 10. It's out of course. Drop down.
Gregorian calendar.
And we read about the Papal Bull where he instituted this. Read on.
1882 AD, Pope Gregory the 13th. 12-month calendar. Adjusted the days of each month for more accurate leap years.
He adjusted the days so he could have a matching or accurate leap year, right? Now, we don't celebrate birthdays, but think it as a worldly aspect of it, right? It used to be people in the world, you had some babies that was born February 29th, right? February 29th. But with the leap year, that only comes every, 4 years. So the ones that was born on February 29th, they won't see another February 29th until 4 years later. So if they was born on that day, the days of the calendar will outdo their years. Because why? They don't see another February 29th until a 4-year period. That doesn't make sense. That's wicked as hell. But we don't celebrate birthdays. Read the story of Job and see what happened to Job's children. But just to show with the leap year, they changed everything. It just doesn't make sense. All right, let's drop that. Give me the next article. Give me the next article. He didn't turn things upside down. Is that the top of it? Let's see the very top. Yeah, go to the very top. Yep. Okay, let's read that.
Where did the names of the days of the week come from?
And you can go on down to it. We get straight to it for time's sake. Let's start right there. Yep.
All right. Day, origin, and etymology. Sunday, named after the sun, the most important celestial object to many ancient cultures, including the Babylonians and the Romans.
Yeah, because they made them calendars.
Monday.
Sunday, now Monday.
Monday, named after the moon, which was associated with the goddess Luna in Roman mythology.
You see that? And a lot of our people deal with mythology and stuff like that. So Monday is named after a goddess. Sunday is named after the sun. Goddess, God, read.
Tuesday, named after the Germanic god Tu, who was associated with war in the sky in Norse mythology. Tune was known as Tyr. Wednesday, named after the Germanic god Woden, who was associated with wisdom, magic, and poetry. In Norse mythology, Woden was known as Odin.
Okay.
Thursday, named after the Germanic god Thor.
Okay, you can drop down. Thor's of lightning. We've seen that in the marble, I believe. Go back up to the next one. Friday, just name them.
Friday, named after the goddess Frigg or Freya.
Okay, so that's another goddess.
Saturday, named after Saturn, the Roman god of agriculture.
So all these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so on and so forth is named after these Roman gods. Go down just a little bit more. I think it's a highlighted paragraph. Hold on, go down a little bit more. I think it's going to say something else. That might have been it. Okay, read the highlighted part back up there. Yep.
The influence of planetary gods. The ancient Greeks and Romans adopted the Babylonian 7-day week and named the days of the week after their respective planetary gods. The Greek named the days after Helios, the sun, Selene, the moon, Aries, Mars, Hermes, Mercury, Zeus, Jupiter, Aphrodite, Venus, and Cronus, Saturn.
All right, so these are the different gods that they made for the names of the week. All right, you can drop that. Give me Psalms 96 and verse 4. And our people get into a lot of that stuff and be worshiping these different gods. We're not supposed to be doing that. Yeah, the scripture says, even in the commandments, 10 commandments, thou shalt have no other God before me. But a lot of times our people err because they don't know the scriptures. They think it's okay to celebrate these customs and stuff like that. They think, oh, well, God not going to punish me for that. No, God will punish you for that. Why? Because God, he's jealous. Understand that he's jealous. Read what you got.
The book of Psalms, chapter 96, verse 4. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods.
See that? So the Most High is to be feared above all gods, right? We're supposed to keep his commandments, keep what he ordained for us to keep his custom, keep his holidays, not the other nations. Read.
For all the gods of the nations are idols.
You see that? All the gods of the nations are idols. We just read all these different gods of the other nations. Hermes, Zeus, Jupiter, all these Saturn, all these different things. They're other gods. We are not supposed to be dibbling and worshiping these things. Read on.
But the Lord made the heavens.
It said, but the Lord made the heavens. So we're supposed to be worshiping the Most High God. But you know what happens? When we don't know the scriptures, give me Psalms chapter 106. Psalms 106. When we don't know the scriptures, we tend to do things what the world does. We follow after our pastors. They don't teach us the Bible. Our people in and out of these different institutions, they're not teaching them the word of God. They're not teaching them the correct way of how they're supposed to be, what they should and should not be selling it. In fact, a lot of these institutions are keeping these so-called holidays and stuff of the world. But this is what happens when we get mingled in amongst the other nations. Psalms 106 and start at verse 6.
The book of Psalms, chapter 106, verse 6. We have sinned with our fathers.
It said we have sinned with our fathers. Why? Because our fathers did a lot of wickedness just like us, right? Read.
We have committed iniquity. We have done wickedly. Our fathers understood not thy wonders in Egypt.
You see that? So our fathers didn't understand them certain gods they were celebrating or worshiping in Egypt. Same as our people today. Our people don't understand that they worshiping Janus or Ishtar. Our people don't understand that. Read on, is there more on that?
They remember not the multitude of thy mercies.
And our father then, they actually got to see the Most High God split the Red Sea and all that. All we got is a book. We got the good book. That's what we got. But we understand, but it's hard to get our people to understand. Jump to 34.
Verse 34. They did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them.
You see, so a lot of times when we had to pass through different lands, the Most High God commanded us to destroy nations and stuff like that, destroy their idols and stuff. Why? Because he was the one true God. The other nations were supposed to know that, and they knew that. But we were supposed to destroy their idols. But what happened?
They did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them.
So we didn't destroy them when God commanded us, read.
But were mingled among the heathen.
You see that? So every time we come around these other nations, we start to mingle amongst them. Our people always been like that. We like to mingle and do what the other nations do, whether it's planning their sports, celebrating their customs. You tell our people, hey, we're supposed to keep Passover. They like, nah, Easter Sunday. That's how they are. Read.
And learn their works.
And what we do?
And learned their works.
And that's how we start worshiping and celebrating New Year's, Easter, all these different things. We learn their works. Okay, we can drop that. Let me get that book real quick. The book Pagan of Days. Let's pull that up. Pagan of Days. I'm gonna try to make it quick. Try to run through it real quick. Pagan of Days. It's a book that talks about the different days and customs. Like we just read an article about it, about the days of the week and stuff like that. But they have a book called The Pagan of Days that go into a lot of these customs as well. And this is the book. It's called The Pagan Book of Days. The Pagan Book of Days. Why? Because God created days. We know days is not pagan, but when the Mr. White Man gets it, he makes it pagan. He turned things upside down. He has the world out of course, right? Give me let's go inside the book. Let's go inside the book. Page 6 at the bottom on the left. The left side at the very bottom. Yep, that's page 6. Yep, start there.
Traditional days. The word day has more than one meaning. Most commonly refers to the official period of 24 hours associated with a calendar date.
All right, let's go up to page 7 at the top.
Each day beginning at midnight.
It said each day beginning at midnight, according to America today, right? The day begins at midnight because he changed the time. Read.
But this is not the traditional definition of a day.
It said, but it's not the real day. That's basically what it's saying. Read.
In ancient Greece, for example, the day was reckoned to run from dawn until the following dawn.
It said in ancient Greece, the day was morning to morning. So all you morning to morning doctrine brothers out there that may be watching or see this video, ancient Greece came up with the morning to morning doctrine, not God. Understand that. Read on.
The day in the Central and Northern European tradition begins at sunset.
And the European tradition at one point began at sunset because where did they get it from? Read.
As it does in the Jewish tradition.
They got it from us. They got it from the Bible. They got it from God. Read.
Symbolically and literally, this day starts in darkness.
You see that? It starts in the evening. It starts in the evening. The day starts in the evening. Read.
And continues through the next period of daylight until the following sunset.
That's sunset. Sundown to sundown. Sunset to sunset. Okay, you can drop that. Let's get Bible now. Genesis chapter 1. So God made the day to start evening to evening. But as we see, Greece changed it to morning to morning. Then you got over in America, they changed it to midnight. But it always, let's see what God ordained from the beginning. Genesis 1 and 5.
The book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 5. And God called the light day.
And God called the light day.
And the darkness he called night.
And the darkness he called night. Why? Because when God was doing everything, it was dark. It started in darkness. So it only makes sense. Read.
And the evening and the morning were the first day.
So it only makes sense for the day to start at night. It started in the night, in darkness. The evening and the morning was the first day. Evening to evening. Jump to verse 8.
Verse 8. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day.
So when he made the firmaments of heaven, he was it was the second day, which evening to evening. So God is letting us know the day starts at evening, sundown to sundown, right? But the friendly Mr. White man changed it, right? He changed it. Okay, we can drop that. We can drop that. Let's get okay, and I showed the book of days, right? Okay, so we can drop that. Let's get so something else when it came to changing the New Year's. They made a joke about it in ancient times. And what that joke is, it's still around. They call it April Fool's Day. That's what they call it. They call it April Fool's Day. A lot of our people, I remember when I was in the world, I didn't understand the Bible. Hell, we played April Fool's jokes and pranked the teachers and stuff like that. We did it not knowing nothing about it. We just was following the world. Hell, they had us doing it in school. So we just follow the world. Just like when we read in Psalms 106, anytime we get around other nations, we learn their works. And that's what we was doing. We didn't know. But April Fool's had a meaning behind it. Let me get that article. Let me get that article, that April Fool's article. Read that, Moses, where it says Monday.
Monday is April 1st.
Okay, it said Monday is April 1st. So this was in 2024, right? So in 2024, April 1st was Monday in 2024. All right.
April Fool's Day, or is it?
Or is it?
On April 1st, hang on. Have you ever wondered why April Fool's Day is even a thing, or why it's got its own day?
Uh-huh.
On April 1st, 1700, English pranksters began popularizing the annual tradition of April Fool's Day by playing practical jokes on each other.
Okay, that's what they turned it into, right? But what's the meaning behind it? Read.
Although the day, also called All Fool's Day, has been celebrated for several centuries by different cultures. Its exact origins remain a mystery. Some historians speculate that April Fool's Day dates back to 1582.
They speculate. They know it dates back to 1582. Ain't no speculating. They know it. Read.
When France switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar.
To the Gregorian calendar.
As called by the Council of Trent in 1563. People who were slow to get the news or failed to recognize that the start of the new year had moved to January 1st and continued to celebrate it during the last week of March through April 1st, became the butt of jokes and hoaxes.
You see that? So it said they made jokes on the people that didn't realize Esau changed the dates. He changed the dates, so they was making fun of people that still was keeping what? Abib. Still was keeping the new year in the springtime. So that's where April Fools came from. Let's get that video on it real quick. That's really all the article says. Let's get the video on it. I think it's like 2 minutes. April Fools. So when it comes to April Fools, Esau done fooled a lot of us to worshiping Janus when the real New Year's is in March, April. Towards the end of March.
April Fool's Day, or All Fool's Day, is the one day of the year when you are allowed to mercilessly prank your friends, family, and coworkers. How exactly did this day come about? We don't actually know for sure what started the celebration of April Fool's Day. References can be found as early as the 1500s, but these accounts are infrequent and not very detailed. The most popular theory is that it began around 1582 in France during the reformation of the calendar. Before France adopted the Gregorian calendar, they celebrated New Year's for 8 days, beginning on March 25th and ending on April 1st. When they switched calendar systems, the 8th day moved from April 1st to January 1st. Because they didn't have internet, phones, social media, and a mail system, a lot of people didn't hear about this change until years later. Those that did not hear about the change continued to celebrate New Year's in April. Others refused to celebrate it out of rebellion. Those that had been informed of the change and adjusted their calendars began to make fun of these fools who were uninformed or rebellious. This harassment evolved into a tradition of playing pranks on the first day of April and then spread to other countries. However, April Fool's Day was already established in England, which didn't switch calendar systems until 1752. Also, people were already engaging in pranks and lightheartedness around this time of year, long before the French switched their calendar systems, such as in the case of the ancient Roman festival of Hilaria. Modern celebrations of April Fool's Day have slightly different traditions depending on the country you are in, but they all have the similar theme of pranking or humiliating individuals. In France, they try to tape an image of a fish to your back without you noticing, and in Portugal, they throw flour at you. In England, you are only supposed to pull jokes until noon, and if you pull a joke after noon, you are called an April Fool. In the United States and Britain, even popular media outlets and companies have been known to get involved in the fun. In 1996, Taco Bell announced that it had purchased the Liberty Bell from the city of Philadelphia and was going to rename it the Taco Liberty Bell. In 1992, NPR claimed that Richard Nixon would be running again for president.
So that's was the purpose of April Fools. They made it a joke. Why? Because some people were still keeping the original New Year's rather than from the Gregorian calendar or that they changed it to. Right? So they made jokes. They was cracking jokes on them like, oh, you fool, you didn't know the date changed, such and such. So that's where that came from, right? But the point is, it got changed. Esau changed it. The man of perdition changed it, right? Let's get Lamentations 5. Lamentations 5 and verse 7. Lamentations 5 and 7. So a lot of our people, a lot of these customs that we do, we didn't come out the womb celebrating all these customs. It was taught to us. It was taught to us. 5 and Lamentations chapter 5, verse 7. Start there.
The book of Lamentations, chapter 5 and verse 7. Our fathers have sinned and are not.
It said, our fathers have sinned and are not. Read.
And we have borne their iniquities.
And we have borne their iniquities. Why we borne their iniquities and carry on their iniquities? Because they taught it to us. They taught these traditions. We didn't come out celebrating Easter. We didn't come out celebrating New Year's. No, they taught us that. And depending on when you was born, one of the main things they was teaching you was your birthday, to celebrate your birthday. And then that's when all these holidays fell in place. You know, we all celebrated Christmas, Easter. They dress you up. You know, you wear a suit and tie on Easter Sunday, and then you out, looking for eggs. And they got you thinking the bunny rabbit lay eggs, But we learn these things because our parents and our grandparents taught us and so on and so forth. So we carried on these traditions that they taught us. Read.
Servants have ruled over us. There is none that doth deliver us out of their hand.
Is that 8?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we carry on these iniquities and stuff. Why? Because they taught us these traditions. They taught us these, and their parents taught them, and then their parents taught them, and it just kept on going and kept on going. But now, as we seek out of the book of the Lord and understand, we're going to break them chains. We're going to stop that cycle. Our children come up, they ain't going to know nothing about no Easter. Nothing about celebrating no Christmas. I mean, they're going to hear about it because of the world, but they ain't going to know nothing about it, right? Why? Because we keep the commandments of God. That's what we're supposed to do. All right, 1 Peter 4 and 3. I think that I might make this the last scripture. 1 Peter 4 and 3, right? So the times have changed. Why? Because Esau changed them. He changed everything from the months to the time, the daylight savings time, the year, all these different things. He changed everything, right? Read.
The book of 1 Peter, chapter 4 and verse 3. For the time past of our life may suffice us to have wrought the will of the Gentiles.
Okay, and that's the will, the thing of the Gentiles. We like to follow what the other nations do. The Gentiles are the true Gentiles are the other nations outside of the 12 tribes of Israel. We like to follow the things they do. If you look at our people today, New Year's, Easter, all these different things, we follow after the Gentile, the so-called white man. Hell, even the Chinese people, so on and so forth. We follow after them. Read.
When we walked in lasciviousness.
And when we walked in lasciviousness,
lusts.
Lust, all different types of lust. A lot of things that we do, we didn't learn it on our own. We learned it from the other nations. The lust, the sexual lust. We learned to do fornicate on January 1st when our people celebrated that stuff. Even when you read in the book of Leviticus, all those sexual sins, we learned that from the Egyptians. So we learn these things from the Gentiles. Read.
Excess of wine.
Getting drunk, partying. That's what they do on New Year's. That's what our people already done on New Year's, right? Read. Revelings, all these different partyings and stuff. Read.
Banquetings.
Partying.
And abominable idolatries.
All these things that goes on from these customs is idolatry. And that's what we learn. We learn to idolize these things and take part in it. But God says we shouldn't have idols. We shouldn't have no other gods. So we shouldn't be taking part in all these different customs. You so-called blacks and Hispanics, you are the Israelites. Understand that. Read on.
Wherein they think it strange that ye run not with them to the same excess of riot.
It said they think it's strange that you run not to the same thing that they do. Meaning what? Let's say this happened to me before. It'd be and I was just doing it to mess with people, but they'd be like, "Oh, Happy New Year in January," and I'm like, "It's not the New Year," and they'll look like, "What?" They look at you like, "What?" No, it's not the New Year. And then, depending where I'm at, I might can explain it, you know what I'm saying? And then they start to think something's wrong with you, right? Read.
Speaking evil of you.
And then they may even talk about you. What's wrong with this brother? You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with this brother? But then on the flip side, we know the real New Year is coming up Friday. The month of Abib is coming up Friday at sundown. We know that. You won't. No, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say go to your job or nothing like that. But just if you're walking in the store, tell the people Happy New Year. Maybe next Monday, tell them Happy New Year. And they're going to do what? Read.
Speaking evil of you.
They're going to think it's strange. They're going to start talking about it like, man, this brother bugged out. What do you mean Happy New Year? That was like 2 months ago. Why? Because they don't understand. They don't understand. All right, so you so-called blacks and Hispanics, you are the children of Israel. God gave you the commandments to keep and to follow and live by, not to do what these other nations do, right? So with that, make sure you keep the commandments. And that's going to end the class. With that, I say shalom, Most High in Christ bless. I hope you all was edified. Like Bishop say, study, pray, and apply.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models.